If I told you that there was art of Thomas Jefferson as a former crack addict, black man, drug dealer, gay furry with erectile dysfunction wearing a Hatsune Miku binder on his chest, would you believe me? No? You're in for a treat.
Turn your dial, Dapper Don's here to make you smile. With a co-host sharp and riff so true, we've got the laughs, the rants, the view. What's going on? Oh, what's the word? Indy's the city where we'll be heard. From Monument Circle to Broad Ripple on. What's going on with Dapper Don? So grab your coffee, Hoosiers, and let's get to it. 'Cause we're in the house!
What's going on? It's Dapper Don, and I'm excited to welcome you all back. So, a bit of quick news. I am done pursuing radio. I'm not going to keep placing my self-worth in the hands of a bunch of ambivalent fuckers. So, I'm going to start talking about more nerdy things, the things that I'm actually into, and I'm going to start placing my full effort into this show. Because there's only so many times in the first place that I can talk about radio-related topics like social media, relationships, and all that shit before my opinions just start sounding redundant, before the bit gets old. There's only so many times that I can see some stupid fucking trend and say, oh, that's stupid. Oh, that's bad. Stop romanticizing emotional abuse. There's only so many times I can say that before people stop tuning in because my opinion sounds like every other yokel's opinion on it. No. We're going to be doing a pivot. Radio entertainment energy, because I still like the energy, but with a nerd/niche focus. And in transition from that point, we're going to be talking about the 2017 phenomena of the Miku binder. For those of you who remember that, you're in for quite the episode, my friend. And I was actually reminded of this by a friend of mine. We had a conversation about it, and it just kind of unearthed so much nostalgia that I figured if I had to suffer looking into this, you will too. So let's talk about the Hamilton fandom. 2015. Let's cut back to there. Miranda's Hamilton has taken the stage and the world by storm. And one of the things that made it so iconic was the vibes. Rapping, black characters playing historically non-black individuals, the dramatization, all of that was the exact recipe for Tumblr clout. And user Umbroni, as well as many other people, took full advantage of it. So, let's talk about Umbroni. Inspired by the actors of the stage play, Umbroni drew the characters in Hamilton as, we'll say, very Tumblrized versions of themselves. So now, let's take a look at what we got here. There's Thomas Jefferson, born and raised in Virginia, obviously. He's an art and education major. That's right, they're college students. The worst type of person to be. They're 5'11", 11 feet, 26 years old, a furry, taking Japanese lessons. He thinks he can cook, but he can't. He is obsessed with anime. Frequents Barnes and Noble. Oh, he's bookish. He's John's former drug dealer, John Hancock's former drug dealer. Yes, this is real. Used to be addicted to cocaine. Hates to recall this past. Just know that he used to be addicted to cocaine, though. Tattoo artist. He gives, what does that say? Oh, yeah, he gives Peggy her first tattoo. He pretends to like jazz and classical, but is actually really K and J-pop trash. because, as you know, they're just the bee's knees. They're the tits right there. He's flamboyant, loudmouth, and bad at love. And, yeah, always beats Alex at Pokemon because his are genned by James. This is the level we're at here, people. And the beauty of it is that's not the only character that has a description like that. So just let me let's really take just a real good sampling here of where are the pictures. Why is it that when I start these videos, I can never find the fucking picture? It's like I always have it up, and then I go out of it for 2 seconds. Oh, boy. Hold on. Oh, that's why. It was downloaded instead of saved as a picture. Let me introduce you to Alexander Hamilton. Gender fluid, he, she, they. Nothing wrong with that. My ladies, gentlemen, and thadies are all very valid. But you kind of see the trend that I'm kicking forward here. You're kind of seeing the idea. He's 5'4" feet. He's not just one of the original Americans. He's English, Latin, Spanish, and French. He was born in Charlestown. He's quick-tempered. He runs track. Events include 400-meter dash and 1 mile, although he is flexible with what events he can do. He works at Barnes & Noble. There's another Barnes & Noble. With Angelica, has a messy past he's not proud of. Oh yeah, real messy. Can barely remember his father, but apparently looks a practical dead ringer. His birth name is a mystery. Yeah, Alexander Hamilton wasn't his birth name. Nobody knows his birth name. He got in a fist fight with Thomas Jefferson after his return from France on exchange. Volunteers around the community. That's right, he's a community leader. Banned from mock trial for causing Aaron Burr to have a nervous breakdown. Oh no. He's a competitive gamer. Smash Bros. And Pokemon. He has matching bracelets with his friends. And he's legally blonde, and he loves science. Never mind the fact that major scientific advancements came far after he was, alive. He loves the science that was back then, which was basically if you drop an object, it falls to the ground, and if an object stops moving, it doesn't move anymore. Such riveting science. Now let's take a look at John Lawrence. He is Spanish, English, and French. 6'2", 24 years old. Born in the Dominican Republic. He's a single father, works as a mechanic part-time, and his daughter Frances is 8 months old. Oh, this is good. He has ADHD, GAD, and his overt friendliness is a cover for his insecurities. He's on good terms with his ex-wife Martha. They co-parent like Asgore and Toriel. Formerly attended and played football for Clemson before transferring to Kings. Childhood friends with Alexander Hamilton, therefore he's one of the few who knows their dead name. Started an a cappella group with Alexander, Hercules and Lafayette, The Revolution. Reconnected with Alexander when Alex started his first year at Kings, and he's a stoner. He smoked cigarettes since age 12, found his mom's and has smoked ever since. Often jokes that people are friends with him just for his mom. Eleanor is hilarious. On that note, he's super tight with his mom. Oh yeah. And is never the same after her passing. Yeah. And And then I have one more here. Philip Hamilton. Gender fluid he, she, they. Goes by Philly Cheese. Works part-time at Starbucks. Bossy, a bit conceited, likes to be in charge. As a kid, he dragged his parents out of bed to go to church. He still does. President of the drama club. Rejects love confessions daily. Everyone seems to fall in love with him. Closeted furry. Oh boy. The tumor that was growing in my brain as I was reading this stuff just grew a little bit bigger. Uses nya and that weird semicolon 3 emoji unironically. Can I like kill this character? Can I like can I like make an effigy of this character and just like burn it? Is that possible? Can I do that? He buys binders for needy trans youth and community and is generous. Now, if making these powdered wig wearing clearly conservative individuals who a lot of them had slaves isn't cringy enough for you, you clearly were not on the internet in 2017. This is bad. This is real bad. It was painful to even remotely get through any of these, but you know, and then there's the fact that I had to make a Tumblr account and find these images that were archived and download them. So honestly, you all had better appreciate what I'm doing for you. I make sacrifices for my audience. I really do. But yeah, needless to say, the author received some, should I say, negative feedback. And I mean, I don't know why. Making the known slave owner, Thomas Jefferson, black and having him wear a shirt that says, "I met God, she's black," is perfectly normal behavior. No one would have a problem with that. Seriously, is it too late to make like an effigy, like a Burning Man thing? That's all I want to do is a Burning Man thing. I'm not talking about arson. I'm talking about just like getting some sticks, making like a statue of it and just lighting it on fire. That's all I want to do. But this blog that he made with these characters lasted until 2020. After that, after the negative comments and after he was responding to trolls like it was his goddamn job, probably because it was, the blog and everything associated was quietly deleted as the author kind of ran away. And that's just that's one of the most basic stories in this fandom. And that's just the introduction to what is surely a rabbit hole worth going down. For nostalgia's sake, not because this is actually good stuff. It's just horrible. But let's talk about the user HIV Living. And these basically, to kind of sum it up, a little TLDR for their story. These are two people who pretended to be HIV-ridden human trafficking survivors. And no, that is not a joke. I wish it was. I wish I was making this up. So, it's October 2016. A bunch of Hamilton fans started a Tumblr to educate on their experiences living with HIV. Supposedly, that's the story that was portrayed. The way it was portrayed, the blog was run by two people, a Chinese-Pakistani survivor of human trafficking and an American lesbian living in India. Both stated they were HIV positive, and these women even linked to their fundraiser pages for help with raising awareness and things of that nature. But another user realized the women may have been US based and confronted them. After a back and forth, the women admitted that they were white college students and were lying about everything. They also admitted that they scammed people. A lot of people. And my thing is, how did they think they weren't going to get caught? You could have just pretended to be one or the other. You could have either been an HIV survivor or a child trafficking survivor. But both? You really don't think people are going to look into both? Now, this is not me telling you how to scam people, because obviously this is a horrible, reprehensible thing. But if you're going to do it, choose one struggle and like go hard on it, do some research on it, because you're dipping into two lanes when you do that. Again, don't do it, but if you're going to do it right. But that's the surface level information that's available for you on Wikipedia. The Hamilton part of it comes in with the weirdo fan fictions that they supposedly wrote. Now, much of these are lost to time due to them running away like little bitches after they were caught, but I found like 3 pages. Now, I didn't pre-read these, so I don't know what's in them, but I did hear stuff about like mermaids and cannibalism, so let's just take a look. And I will narrate them for you, as much as it might pain me to do so. To scale the blue sky. Notes. Trigger warning for the entire work. A sexual assault, while not exceptionally graphic, is central to the story's plot. And let me just, because the fucking archive of our own, or whatever this is not great with smartphones. Chapter 1. Angie Shu picks him up at 9 in her red Corvette, white leather seats and gold trim. She's rich and itching for rebellion. Her family's new money. They're excluded from debutante balls and dinner parties, but no one can deny they're rolling in it. "Hey, Angie," Alex says. "That your girl?" Mulligan asks, jaw falling open as the car squeals to a stop. He grins, shoving him in the shoulder. "We have fun," he replies ambiguously. "Alex, what are you on? Messing around with a rich girl," he chides, shaking his head. "She's gonna expect some expensive shit. What are you gonna do then?" "She's picking me up in North Chuck, man. She's not dumb," Alex replies, the understatement of the century because she's a genius. "See you around, Mulligan." "Have fun fulfilling her uptown girl fantasies," he shouts after them. Alex has barely gotten in the passenger seat when she grinds her heel into the accelerator. They both laugh, and he turns to her with a grin. They're at the top of their class, both have exclusive internships in the business district, and their ambitions limitless, flowing like the money Alex doesn't have. Because we all know, being poor, huge character conflict. Those aren't even the only characteristics they share. Once every few weeks, when they've gotten ahead on their work and have a free Friday or Saturday night, they head out to a frat party at the nearby university to get tipsy and dance their expectations away. A coping mechanism is a coping mechanism, because we all know that mental health back in those days was really well embraced. She tosses her chin-length black hair, which she's made a valiant effort in teasing and spraying up despite the humidity. "I know the guy who's hosting, and when I say I know him, she remarks, turning suddenly at the end of the block. She may be the rising star of the physics department, but all her free body diagrams and velocity graphs haven't improved her driving." "Was that the guy from last time?" he asks, trying to recall the face of the guy she'd slipped upstairs with. "The time before," she replies. Discussion like this would horrify the churchgoers of Charleston, but Alex and Angie love a good party. In the kindest possible terms, they're both promiscuous, have ill-advised outlets to accumulated stressors. They're constantly busy, filling resumes and gritting their teeth in the face of academic obstacles. The year is 1988, and the world is changing, so they must evolve with it. Alex sleeps with girls, their tight skirts and beguiling hips, and boys, muscles and stubble and rough edges. Oh yeah, we love a bottom. People would kill him if they knew. So they can't. Alex dislikes the dishonesty, but he must be willing to sacrifice that part of himself if he ever hopes to make it in politics. Because we all know that politicians definitely only do parties and sleeping with random men and women. Definitely not the Epstein list shit. No, forget about that. Angie doesn't ask him about it. She sees him duck inside closets with college boys, flirty smiles, and alcohol breathiness. No one at school knows except for Angie. She could destroy him, but he could destroy her too. If her numerous friends knew how many people had spent the night with, she'd lose all her credibility. So much for being one of the smartest students at the school. She'd be a slut, and that would be that. Does that really say what that says? If her numerous friends knew how many people had spent the night with. Nope, that says what it says. Proofread. They've got each other's backs in that way. It's like a much more fun version of mutually assured destruction. Don't ask, don't tell, but without the tedium of an arms race. The Corvette pulls up to the house party, conspicuous and vibrant with life. The guy at the door recognizes them, waves them in without so much as a second glance, except perhaps to check out Angie's ass. Alex knows his limits. He's a lightweight, so it's usually better to start out with just a bit. He never aims to get face on the floor drunk, because hangovers are such a pain. He fills half his glass with whatever's in the keg and dilutes it with water from the tap, then circulates to the front of the room. He sees some guys he's loosely acquainted with, says a quick hello, then ventures into the basement, which is dominated by bright-colored lights and dance music, dozens of bodies moving in the dark, and he joins the crowd. Angie jumps on his back and laughs wildly. She's already far drunker than he is. He smirks and nudges her off his back carefully. She's drunk enough that a little slip could break her neck. She stumbles back onto her feet, pulling down her skirt, which had gotten hiked up. Alex sets his drink down on the table, and they dance together, jumping up and down to Don't You Want Me, Baby. Angie belts the lyrics more than a little tipsy, and Alex grabs his drink back from the table and takes a few gulps. They tell girls over and over, never put down your drink. They drill it into them. The fear of being raped, kidnapped, murdered, like thousands of girls who are exploited each year by greedy, heinous men. They don't tell boys. He's never learned better. A boy approaches him from the side of the room, and they dance together briefly. The room is dark, anonymous. Everyone is too drunk to accuse anyone of homosexuality or worse, AIDS. Each encounter is a game and risk assessment he knows. You're not from around here, are you? The boy asks him in a drawl. Someplace in Africa, right? Alex feels himself bristle, has to grit his teeth to stop himself from snapping. He's worked hard to banish the accent, difficult because he picked up quite a few over the years. He is Haitian, moved from Dominican Republic, although born originally in Puerto Rico. Caribbean cities and slums, countryside and tiny apartment buildings. He has seen most of what the islands have to offer, and while he doesn't hate his homelands, he knows they are a disadvantage. He knows that they're a disadvantage. Okay. That's just racist. Let me make sure that that's what I actually read. He is Haitian, moved from the Dominican Republic, born originally in Puerto Rico, Caribbean cities and slums, countryside, tiny apartment buildings. He has seen most of what the islands have to offer. He doesn't hate his homeland. He knows they are a disadvantage. Okay. Given the context that this would be written by a college-aged white girl, this is horribly racist. And the idea about homosexuality and stuff in the preceding paragraph, horribly conservative. Oh, this is delightful. Having a great time right now. He has seen most of what the islands have to offer, and while he doesn't hate his homelands, he knows they are a disadvantage. After processing the boy's ignorance, he decides that he's not into this. He's pasty pale and has greasy blonde hair. Alex is having none of it, he decides. He returns to Angie. They can laugh about him later. They jump around a bit more, giggling, when he realizes he feels a lot more drunk than he ought to. For a little bit, it's nice. Angie teases him, says, I gotta catch up, don't I? She downs more of her drink. That much he remembers. They're on the couch then. Angie has her legs sprawled out. He's barely had half a diluted drink, he recalls groggily. Fog descends upon him. Somehow he's not on the couch now. They're standing together back near the stereo. Angie dances in a blur of color around him. Lights spin and the room starts to whir with it. Wait, what the fuck is this dude's alcohol tolerance? Didn't he... Yeah, he had half a diluted drink and he gets that drunk? What a fucking weakling. It is after this point that he struggles to recollect sharp pictures. He has only tiny shards of mirrors that project into all direction. The light is blinding and difficult to read. He is being pushed onto a car, onto the floor. Later he will ask himself how he had gotten outside. How had no one noticed? Had he been dragged? Had he followed of his own free will? His nose is pinched by harsh, smooth fingers, and when he gasps for breath, the boy forces his dick into his mouth. He thrusts. Alex gags, but the pasty blonde boy keeps going. Bite him, he thinks. The boy starts driving. His limbs are crushed beneath the dashboard, but the kid keeps going. Finally, teeth on flesh, the boy curses and swerves to the side of the road, bumping over the curb. It's spelled K-E-R-B, not C-U-R-B here. Again, proofreading. He is kicked from the car, falls onto the sidewalk, screeching tires, pain, blood dribbles from his chin. What the fuck? Alex wanted to fight but could not. His bones stiffened into lead. His mind languished and confusing. The pieces of glass fall around him. Bewilderment, tiredness. He cannot move. He cannot think. Time is passing, but he is not processing anything. Darkness, dull gray, pain, blood, red, black. They flash and blend until both collaborate, settling over his vision in a thick, lazy wool. Finally, peace. The pain dissolves. How much more of this is left? Oh, boy. Wait, so you mean to tell me... You mean they just move on? They don't address any of this at all? What the fuck? Or do they? Hold on. Okay, they do. Alice feels the so this is like the end of it, the end of the first page anyways. Alex feels the dampness and warmth of tears on his t-shirt before he fully realizes he is crying. He swallows painfully. He couldn't do that earlier when that awful excuse for a human being roofied him and led him out to his car. He thinks he remembers biting the guy's dick. Hopefully he won't be able to reproduce. The worst part of it, he probably deserves it. What the fuck? Oh, what the fuck? I'm glad I didn't read this whole thing. I feel like I'd want to hang myself if I read the whole thing. He's gotten on his knees countless times of his own free will. The man probably picked him out. Maybe he could see that secret part of him that he kept carefully under wraps around his friends and foster families. Or the worst option, perhaps he'd heard a whisper that Alex was up to this sort of thing. If people were talking, he was done for. Rumors like that would kill his reputation, kill anyone's reputation. Because we all know that's the biggest thing to worry about when you've been brutally, violently sexually assaulted. Your reputation. Jesus Christ. I didn't even read all of that, and I feel like jumping out of a window. I don't think I want to read the rest of these. Matter of fact, I know I don't want to read the rest of these. But as far as the rest of the fan fiction, which I'm glad is not available anymore, having read that, the only other archives up are YouTube videos by others. There are plenty of them, so if you'd like to check those out, you go on ahead. But as for those of you sticking around, we are halfway through, which means it's time for our groove break. Decompress, bleach your ears, and when we come back, we'll be reading maybe a page or two of some other fan fiction and zooming out a bit to look at how a fandom like this could come to be. You're listening to What's Going On with Dapper Don. Stay tuned. You're tuned in to What's Going On with Dapper Don. Don't touch that dial. And we're back! I hope you all enjoyed your break. I know I sure did. I just had to take a breather after reading that shit. I'm really glad those women are gone. But it's time that we delve into our random fanfic here. Just to give us an idea of where the rest of the fandom was at around this 2015 to 2017 time. This one is called Sleep Alexander by Bowtie Scarf Plaid. And to read the description for you, Alexander works too hard and sleeps too little. Everyone tries to get him to sleep more, but John Lauren seems to be the only one who can succeed. 3 times Alex falls asleep on John, and 1 time John falls asleep on Alex. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Kill me. All right. Let's get this over with. Ugh. Alexander groaned and dropped his head onto John's shoulder. John looked down at his friend sympathetically. They were 2 hours into a heavy study session. Midterms were coming up and they were both swamped. Remind me again why I wanted to be a lawyer? And yes, all of these fan fictions have the common theme of turning these guys into college students. Because you have a passion for making sure people are treated fairly by our laws, John greatly admired that his friend was studying to be a defense lawyer for populations that were so often swept under the rug. Huh? That's not what Alexander Hamilton was. Let's move on. No, that doesn't seem right, Alexander mumbled sleepily. Oh, I know, it's because you love living off of coffee and 2 hours of sleep. Yeah, that seems about right. Alexander laughed slightly bitterly and went back to reading his law textbook, but he left his head on John's shoulder. Ooh, ooh. John went back to his own studying. After a little while, he noticed that Alexander's head had grown heavy, and he hadn't turned a page in a few minutes. Alex, John said softly. The boy didn't stir. John couldn't see his friend's face, but he assumed that he was asleep. John knew that Alexander would want to be woken up, but he couldn't find it in him to wake up his peaceful friend. He knew that Alex needed sleep, so he decided to let him take a half an hour nap. Then he would wake him up. John tried to go back to studying, but the deep sound of Alexander's breathing and the feel of his soft hair tickling his neck was distracting. Plus, Alex's head kept slipping further down, and John was afraid he would fall over. Carefully, John leaned back and moved so that his arm was around Alex. The young man didn't even move as he readjusted. John tucked Alexander against his side and attempted to go back to reading. 20 minutes later, the door to Alexander's dorm room swung open and his roommate Lafayette walked in. He froze when he saw the sleeping Alexander. "Mon ami, how did you do that?" he asked in amazement, not even bothering to keep his voice down. "Shh," John reprimanded. "Trust me, Lawrence, once he's asleep, it's almost impossible to wake him up. The trouble is getting him to sleep." "How did you do it? I've been trying to get him to take a nap for weeks." Lafayette shook his head in wonder. "We were just studying and he fell asleep." John would have shrugged, but he didn't want to risk waking up Alexander, no matter what Lafayette said. "Il est fatigue," Lafayette murmured. He murmured. Not murdered. I'm ready to murder something and someone after reading this, but no, that's not what it says. John saw concern in Lafayette's face as he looked at his sleeping roommate. It made John wonder how little sleep Alexander was really getting. "Laf, if we move him, will he wake up?" "Alex is so tired he could probably sleep for days straight," Lafayette said by way of an answer. How else would he say it? Will you help me?" John gestured to the books and laptop covering their laps. Lafayette gathered everything up. John gently extracted himself and lay Alexander down on the bed. Once again, the exhausted boy didn't wake up. John covered up and tucked his friend in and had to resist the urge to kiss his forehead. "Sleep well, Alexander." "I'm glad to see that you like him as much as he likes you," Lafayette said from behind John, making him jump. "I don't know what you mean," although he knew his red face gave him away. "Yes, you do," Laf said, but he didn't push the issue any further. Can you make sure he is up by his 9 a.m. class?" John sputtered to change the subject. "Of course, mon ami." "Okay, well, I'm going to go finish studying," John said, backing out of the room and away from Lafayette's knowing gaze. "Au revoir, Lawrence," Lafayette called after him. John heard his friend's laughter as he closed the door. John returned to his own dorm room, but he wasn't able to get much studying done that night. Lafayette's words kept coming back to him. "As much as he likes you." That was what he had said. John should have questioned why he thought Alexander liked him, but he had been so thrown off by his crush being discovered that he had panicked. Had Alexander said something to Lafayette, or was the Frenchman merely speculating? John decided that it was probably the latter, and therefore it meant nothing. Now, there are 5 chapters of this, and it's basically more of the same. It's basically just tame yaoi. So I mean, we can move on. We can move on. That hurt. That was painful. But it was painful in a this is way too wholesome for what fandom it comes from way. And yeah, I'd say we have just one more in us. Well, just one more in us before we zoom out a little bit to how this shit even would happen in the first place. This is a one-shot called A Stormy Meeting, and this is fanfiction.net. So this one's probably going to be pretty bad. I haven't read it ahead of time, but we'll see. It's published on the 2nd of March, 2018. Oh, wow. That's pretty late after the fandom's height. And it's by Redcoats Redder. George Washington had a headache. Again, when one works with Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, they are to be expected. And when one expects them to work together, one is basically inviting a headache. Oh, quirky! And so his 2 secretaries were shouting back and forth at the cabinet meeting, per usual. "Hamilton, no, that's ridiculous." We don't need another crazy long-shot idea of yours to shake the already fragile foundations of this country. Jefferson, I know it must be hard to see past your ego, but this system will only strengthen the country. If anything, not having it would make the country more fragile. At this, the other members of the cabinet shouted and hooted. Washington sighed and rubbed his temple. Sometimes it felt like he was working with children. Time to interfere before this meeting went as far as the last one, which it resulted in several quills stuck in Jefferson's hair and Hamilton's coat covered in ink. Ho-ho! Little quirkiness, little rivalry, and then there's George Washington just, oh man. You guys are outrageous. Ha ha! He rose to his feet, calling out, "Enough! Let's go back to civilized conversation, shall we, gentlemen?" Both men tugged at their sleeves, glaring at each other. Hamilton was the first to respond. "Yes, sir." He moved back to his chair, and Jefferson continued. Just a friendly reminder that this room full of quirky individuals owned slaves. Just want to, FYI, they didn't like black people. It was very warm in the room, what with it being the heat of summer. Jefferson's voice faded to a background drone, and Washington's gaze was snagged by the dark clouds rolling in the sky outside the window. A powerful wind could be seen, sweeping leaves and trash around in the gutters. Jefferson had just finished speaking his piece and was moving to sit down when loud thunder boomed throughout the room. Everyone jumped slightly in their chairs. Well, it was about time. Summer storms were common enough, and this particular one had been brewing for days. It was due to begin, really. Washington cleared his throat. "Thank you, Secretary Jefferson. Secretary Hamilton, your response." His tone conveyed, "Watch your mouth, young man." He knew that Hamilton would pick up on it. The boy was quite intuitive, having worked at the man's side during the war for 4 years. Except, Hamilton didn't seem to have heard him. The man was staring blankly at the page before him, looking startled with somehow impossibly afraid. That couldn't be right. Hamilton was never like this. He faced enemy bullets with a smile on his face and was always the first to charge, the first to attack, never hesitating. But now, something had clearly shocked him into this odd reaction. "Secretary Hamilton?" Washington prompted. A few people snickered. Hamilton swallowed and looked around as if only just realizing that he was in the middle of a room full of people. He stood up, gripping the desk in front of him for support. Yes, Jefferson, He trailed off, and before he could continue, another louder clap of thunder rang through the room. Hamilton's knuckles turned white on the desk. His eyes fluttered closed, and a bead of sweat ran down his face that couldn't have been caused by the heat in the room. His eyes opened again, and they nervously flickered over the faces of the cabinet members. Jefferson was beginning to smirk. "Why, Hamilton, cat got your tongue? It is nice to hear you shut up for once, though. Please keep it going." The president groaned internally. "Mr. Jefferson, enough. Hamilton, your response." Perhaps he should not have spoken so harshly, but it could not be helped now. His secretary flinched. Lightning struck just outside the window, illuminating the room in a brief, bright flash. To his surprise, and everyone in the rooms, Hamilton let out a harsh whimper. He suddenly whirled around and dashed from the room, his coat flaring behind him. The meeting room was silent. Jefferson spoke up. "Well then, guess someone should go and find the little wretch." He was smirking. A few people laughed. Washington rose to his feet, exasperated. "Secretary Jefferson, I said enough. Meeting adjourned." He strode out of the room, intending to find his treasury secretary and give him a long lecture. The hallways were empty as he walked past, everyone still back at the meeting room. Washington approached Hamilton's office, rapping slightly on the door with his knuckles. When he got no response, he opened the door. Also, fun fact, I saw somewhere that George Washington's voice, as commanding as it sounds in this fiction, would not have sounded that commanding in real life. They said something about him having a higher register of a voice to the point where it was very noticeable. So, and then that combined with the clear tooth issues that the man had, I headcanon him sounding more like Mike Tyson in real life. "Secretary Jefferson, I said enough. Meeting adjourned." But, that would ruin the gravitas of this moment if that were the case. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. Where were we? Oh, yes. The hallways were empty as he walked past. Everyone still back at the meeting room. Washington approached Hamilton's office, rapping lightly on the door with his knuckles. When he got no response, he opened the door. The office was completely deserted. Paper was piled on the desk, the chair, and pretty much any flat surfaces. Quills and ink were stacked precariously wherever there was space, but no sign of Hamilton. He had simply disappeared. Now, feeling the stirring of worries in his gut, Washington increased his pace as he roamed the halls, searching in all of the rooms he came across. Nothing. No one had seen him. Forget worried, he was starting to panic. Almost running now, he flung open all of the doors he came across, regardless of the room. He thought he had searched every room in the building when his latest flinging open of a door resulted in a soft wail. The room was dark, with the window obscured by thick curtains and no sign of light from within. But the light from the hall pierced the gloom and Washington squinted, just able to make out what appeared to be an unused office. The desk was shoved against the back wall and a few chairs were scattered about, but no one was sitting in any of them. Yet the wail had not come from the furniture. Washington let the door fall closed once more and hurried to grab a candle from one of the nearby used rooms. Now armed with a small flickering light, he ventured into the room once more, closing the door behind him. The room still appeared to be unoccupied, but if he listened closely, he could hear faint whimpering and sniffling noises. Candlelight only did so much, so Washington moved in the vague direction of the sounds, and eventually his boot nudged something pressed up against the wall, which promptly made an indignant sound. An indignant sound? Okay. It was Hamilton, curled into a tight ball and hidden in the corner of the room. It was... So, let's read that again. It was Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, curled into a tight ball and hidden in a corner of the room. This man in a powdered wig, dressed up in like what they would consider a suit. This military man, curled into a tight ball and hidden in the corner of the room. Now, let's find out why. Setting down the candle, Washington sat across from Hamilton, who peeked at him from over his knees. For a while, neither party said a word. Then the president decided to break the silence. "There you are. I've been looking all over for you, young man." He attempted a weak chuckle and moved to grab the boy's arm. His secretary shrank backwards. "I'm sorry, sir." His mouth opened and closed twice before he dropped his head back onto his knees. Because, Alexander Hamilton was a 19-year-old white girl. Washington frowned. No, this wasn't like Hamilton at all. More thunder echoed across the skies, bringing with it heavy rain that dashed against the windows. Hamilton let out a shriek, "Eek!" and quickly bit down on his sleeve to cut it off. Realization struck Washington. "You're scared of storms, aren't you?" "Well, oh my God. Oh my God. It's a storm, fear, comfort fan fiction. Oh. Oh. Why? Why? Oh, why? Hamilton fandom, why? Oh, Red, why? Ugh. This is not... I don't know if I want to read anymore. No, we have to endure. We have to endure. It doesn't matter how much wholesome, overly cute cringe comes from this. We have to endure. Come on. Come on. The young man shuddered and squeezed his eyes tightly shut. In the dim light, Washington could see a blush blooming over his cheeks. Oh, come on. Nope. Gotta stay in it. Gotta stay in it. The boy was evidently embarrassed. I'm not mocking you, Hamilton. I just want to know why you ran out of the cabinet meeting like you saw a ghost. I would mock him. A slow tear made its way down Hamilton's cheek. Yeah, that one anime tear. Yeah, that's what happened to him. Followed by another. He took several gasping breaths and shuddered. Washington sighed. He moved so he was sitting next to the secretary close enough to reach out and grab him. Yep, because these men were definitely the type to comfort somebody. Nope, stay in it. Hamilton shifted away, trying to put space in between himself and the president. He hid his face in his arms in a futile attempt to disguise the tears now rolling down his face. Because again, these are 19-year-old white girls, obviously. Washington threw any reserve he had left away and gently wrapped an arm around Hamilton's shoulders, pulling him close. The younger man protested and tried to push away at first, but another flash of lightning followed by a clap of thunder caused him to bury his face in Washington's side. The president smoothed Hamilton's hair down and rubbed his back soothingly. There now, you're all right. I'm here. Hush, it's okay. His boy's sobs abated, and he took deep, gasping breaths. Suddenly, Hamilton spoke. When I was 17, there was a hurricane. He stopped, but Washington didn't say anything, knowing that it would cause Hamilton to stop talking. It was horrible. The wind and the water, they were so strong, so destructive. And when it was finally gone, the town was destroyed. Bodies were everywhere, and the people who survived just wandered around in a daze. And it was just so terrifying. I thought I was going to die, and I was so scared. And every time it storms, I just remember the hurricane, and I just, it's like it's happening all over again. He hit his face in Washington's chest again. Okay, I thought people back in this time, shrugged off deaths like they were nothing. Weren't a bunch of people dying of, fucking syphilis and not washing their asses? Hamilton was so much smaller than him. Washington looked at him, considering. Would he push away? He sighed once more and slid an arm underneath Hamilton's leg, so he was now cradling the secretary against his chest. Though Hamilton had squeaked at the sudden movement, he snuggled against Oh. Why'd you use that one? Why'd you use that word? Why that word in particular? Why that word in particular? Why? You could have done this with any other set of characters, bro. You literally could have made your own characters and did this. Why? Alexander, my poor dear boy, it's all right. The storm is past. I promise you're safe now. The words seemed to register with Alexander, who nodded and murmured softly under his breath. Washington caught a hint of his words. Yes, sir, father. His breath hitched. He tightened his hold on Alexander. Yes, sir, father. Or that's their version of daddy. Okay, one more short paragraph. When his breathing slowed, Washington knew Alexander was asleep. He leaned his head back against the wall, a small smile playing on his lips. Eventually, his eyes closed too. Finished! Yay! So that's the end. Hope you enjoyed it. Please review. Best wishes, Red Coats Redder. Red? Red, I'm coming for you. If you see a pop-up on your phone later that says Dapper Don wants to know your location, I'm on my way and rapidly approaching. I think that's enough fan fiction. So now let's take a minute to zoom out and figure out why this happened. So, essentially, the rise of the Hamilton fandom was the perfect storm. For one, 2010's meme culture was at its height around the time that play went live on Broadway, And, you got your Pepes, you had they were making plenty of Donald Trump memes, there was Obama memes. All of these people who were historically political, like in high positions of political power, were starting to get fandoms, both ironic and unironic. With, again, Undertale, Deltarune, and, Sonic even though that had a fandom for longer than a lot of us have been alive, it did reach a certain height in 2016 as well. But these fandoms, and FNAF too, because FNAF came out in 2014, so it was reaching its height at around this time. So a lot of fandoms were forming very quickly, and that kind of meshed together to create this modern fandom culture that we emphasize now, where you can take a reality show and get fan art for it. Whereas before, you wouldn't find something like that outside of nerdy spaces. But this was the perfect storm. And then Gen Z wanted to make the stories of these historical figures more relatable, which is understandable because learning about them in school is boring as sin. But if, say, somebody made a play about it and then a fandom got attracted to it, knowing the story of Hamilton would feel like looking more into your favorite character. So I definitely understand the appeal. Hamilton was just one of the keys into a room already flooded with MLG-coded drug-induced nonsense. So yeah, Hamilton was just something that happened to open another door. Unexpectedly. But what are my final thoughts on this? What are my thoughts on a whole thoughts as a whole on the Hamilton fandom? Well, despite things I may have said throughout this podcast, throughout this video, I genuinely don't have a problem with it. I think that it's nice to be able to look back and see, kind of get a nostalgic feel for just how crazy the 2010s were. And it's kind of nice to be able to see something so earnestly liked. You don't really see that much anymore. But yeah, this is why the aliens won't talk to us, though. But also, this is the shit that radio would have never let me talk about. And I had a lot of fun doing this episode. So that's what we're going to be doing from here on out. Expect nerdy-ass episodes in the future. But anywho, that's all for today's show. If you like this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe. All my socials will be linked in the description as usual. And who helped to put this episode together will be linked as well. Follow us everywhere so you don't miss a beat. And tune in next Saturday at 6:30 p.m. for an all-new What's Going On with Dapper Don. You don't want to miss what I have in store.